A 1967 Abraham Lincoln penny with no mint mark dot at face value. It seems ordinary, but here's the part that still surprises collectors today. Select verified examples of this exact date have sold for unusually high prices. And not because of hype, but because of very specific details most owners never check. If you've ever wondered whether one quiet penny could carry hidden financial potential, stay with me, because this is where the story gets interesting. The year 1967 sits in a unique moment in American coin history. The U.S. Mint was dealing with nationwide coin shortages, rising silver prices, and heavy public hoarding. To stabilize circulation, the Mint made a critical decision. No U.S. coins dated 1965 through 1967 would carry mint marks. So when you see a 1967 penny with no mint mark, that's not a mistake. It's exactly how it was issued. All regular 1967 Lincoln cents were struck in Philadelphia, made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams dot, and millions upon millions were produced. This is where many people get confused. High mintage does not automatically mean low collector interest. Collectors still focus on the 1967 penny for three quiet reasons. First, it's the final full year before major design and production shifts later in the Lincoln Cent series. Second, 1967 coins were struck under extreme pressure, which led to quality inconsistencies, and that's where varieties enter the picture. Third, this date produced some of the finest known condition examples ever certified. And condition is where value can change dramatically. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Not all 1967 pennies were struck the same way. Let's talk about varieties, because this is where interest sharply separates. The most talked about category is 1967 Special Mint Set Cents, often called SMS coins. These were not proofs, but they weren't regular circulation strikes either. They have sharper details, smoother fields, and a distinctive satin-like finish. Many people confuse polished circulation coins with SMS examples, but collectors know the difference immediately. Certified 1967 SMS pennies, especially those graded SP67 or higher with strong red color, have sold for hundreds to several $1,000s in verified auctions. This difference can completely change interest. Then there are error and variety collectors. Documented double die adverse examples exist, though they're subtle. Strong doubling on Liberty or the date itself can significantly raise collector demand. There are also off-metal strikes, clipped plankets, and wrong weight errors confirmed by grading services. These aren't common, but when authenticated, they represent quiet wealth discovery for owners who never knew what they had. And yes, they do sell. Now let's ground this in realistic value ranges. A circulated 1967 penny where typically sells for 2 to 5 cents. Maybe a bit more in bulk copper lots. An uncirculated example, still bright with no wear, might bring 25 cents to a few dollars, depending on eye appeal. But here's where patience matters. Certified mint state examples graded MS66 red or higher have sold from $50 to over $1,000, depending on population rarity. The highest end is 6-7 plus red coins, extremely rare, have achieved life-changing sale results for select examples, but only when verified and properly marketed. No hype, no guarantees, just scarcity meeting demand. This is where many people accidentally reduce value. Cleaning, even gentle cleaning, baking soda, cloth polishing, vinegar, permanently damages the surface. Collectors can see it instantly, and prices drop sharply. Another mistake is assuming color alone means value. Bright red doesn't equal rare. Original surfaces matter far more than shine. And finally, many people sell too quickly without attribution or certification, leaving serious money on the table. Knowledge changes. Outcomes? Here's something most casual. Owners never consider some of the most valuable 1967 pennies were discovered decades after they were minted, sitting quietly in jars, rolls, and inherited collections. The owners didn't rush. They learned what to look for. They weighed their coins. They compared details. They waited for the right buyer. That's how hidden financial potential turns into realized value. So if you own 1967 pennies, here's what matters most. Check the weight. Look closely at the lettering and date. Compare surface texture under good lighting. And if something feels different, not just shiny, but different, that's when expert evaluation becomes important. Because one overlooked detail can change collector interest completely. Before you move on, take a moment tonight and actually look at your pennies, not with hope, but with understanding. And if you want to continue this quiet wealth discovery, there's another Lincoln penny date you should absolutely know about. 1. Let a surprised, even experienced collectors watch that next because in coin collecting, patience and knowledge matter far more than speed. Take a close look at your old pennies for a moment. Because one ordinary-looking coin from 1968 with no mint mark has quietly surprised collectors and sellers alike. Some verified examples have sold for unusually high prices, not because everyone is rare, but because specific details changed how buyers viewed them. And here's the part most people miss. Millions of these pennies exist, yet a small number have produced what sellers describe as quiet wealth discovery and, in select cases, life-changing sale results. So before you dismiss that 1968 penny in your jar, stay with me because understanding why this date still matters can completely change how you look at your coins. The 1968 Abraham Lincoln penny came out during a turbulent era in American history. The Vietnam War was escalating, inflation was rising, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coins for everyday commerce. Pennies dated 1968 were struck at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia carry no mint mark, which is where much of today's confusion begins. This is where many people get confused. A missing mint mark does not automatically mean a mistake. For Philadelphia pennies of this era, no mint mark is normal. Yet collectors still focus heavily on this date. And here's why. By 1968, the mint had already shifted away from silver and circulating coins, and pennies were being struck in a copper alloy, about 95% copper. That metal content alone gives these coins a baseline appeal, especially during times when copper prices rise. But collectors don't stop there. They examine strike quality, surface condition, and most importantly, varieties and errors that slipped through during high-speed production. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. 1968 was the first year the San Francisco Mint struck proof pennies with an S mint mark. Before that, proof coins didn't always carry one. That change created heightened scrutiny across all 1968 cents, including Philadelphia issues. As collectors searched for anomalies, now let's talk about what separates common examples from those with hidden financial. POT and TIA LA heavily worn. 1968 penny with no mint mark, one that's been in circulation for decades, usually carries modest value, often just a few cents over face value, depending on copper prices. But step up one level and things change. Uncirculated examples, especially those with full original luster, clean surfaces and strong detail can attract serious collector interest. This difference can completely change interest. Coins graded MS65 or higher by major grading services have sold for significantly more than most people expect. In certain market conditions, certified high-grade examples have reached into the hundreds of dollars, and select top population pieces have gone even higher. Not because they're common, but because they're exceptional. Errors and varieties are where the story gets even more interesting. Some 1968 Nomit Mark pennies show off center strikes, broad strikes, or die cracks. Others display double die characteristics, where letters or numbers appear slightly doubled due to misalignment during the minting process. This is where many people get confused. Not all doubling is valuable. Machine doubling is common and usually ignored by collectors. True double dies, however, are different and authentication matters verified. Error coins from this date have produced unexpected income for patient sellers who took the time to verify what they had. Condition remains the single biggest value driver collectors look closely at. Sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, full separation in the hair and beard, strong lettering in Liberty and In God We Trust. Original color, whether red, red-brown, or brown, here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Original red copper color dramatically increases demand. Two coins struck the same day can sell for wildly different prices simply because one retained its original brilliance and the other didn't. That's how quiet wealth discovery often happens through preservation, not luck. Now let's talk about mistakes that reduce value. The most common error owners make is cleaning the coin. Even gentle polishing removes microscopic metal and destroys original surfaces. Collectors can spot clean coins instantly, and values often drop sharply as a result. Another mistake is assuming damage is an error. Scratches, dents, and corrosion are not mint errors, and they don't add value. This difference can completely change interest. A natural mint error can increase value. Post-mint damage almost always does the opposite. What are realistic value ranges? Circulated examples typically range from face value to a few cents over, depending on copper prices. Uncirculated raw coins may bring several dollars if well preserved. Certified high-grade examples can reach tens to hundreds of dollars. And select error or top condition coins have achieved life-changing sale results. For select examples, when market demand aligns. Not overnight. Not for everyone, but documented and verified. This is why patient sellers sometimes succeed where others don't. They don't rush. They don't clean. They learn what collectors are actually paying attention to. And sometimes they discover that a coin they've owned for decades holds hidden financial potential they never expected. So here's your takeaway. Take a careful look at your 1968 Nomit Mark Lincoln pennies. Check condition. Look for unusual features. If something stands out, research before making any decision. Knowledge and patience matter more than speed in this hobby. And if you want to go deeper, watch the next video on another Lincoln penny date collectors quietly search for, because the next quiet wealth discovery might already be sitting in your pocket. Take a close look at the pennies you've saved over the years, because one small detail on a 1969 Lincoln cent has quietly changed lives before. And no, this isn't hype. A handful of verified examples of the 1969 with the S-Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny have sold for unusually high prices, and most people wouldn't recognize why at first glance. What makes this coin fascinating is that millions were made, yet only a tiny fraction carry the details collectors aggressively compete for. And if you've never examined your 1969 pennies closely, This is one video you'll want to watch all the way through, because this is where many people get confused. The year 1969 sits at a pivotal moment in American history. The country was changing fast, and the U.S. Mint was still producing Lincoln cents in their traditional bronze composition, 95% copper, 5% tin, and zinc. That alone makes these pennies heavier and more desirable than modern cents. But copper content alone does not explain why collectors focus so intensely on this date. The real attention goes to the San Francisco Mint, identified by the small S beneath the date. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. 1969's pennies were struck almost exclusively as proof coins, meaning they were specially made for collectors, not everyday circulation. Proof coins have sharper details, mirror-like fields, and frosted designs. Most people who find one in pocket change don't realize what they're holding, especially if it's worn or mishandled. Well, even among proof cents, not all examples are equal. This difference can completely change interest. The coin that drives serious excitement is the 1969's double die obverse. This is one of the most famous double die Lincoln cents ever discovered. On genuine examples, the doubling is dramatic and visible to the naked eye, especially in the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." These are not minor machine marks. This is true hub doubling, created during the die-making process. And because counterfeits flooded the market decades ago, authentic examples that pass professional certification have achieved life-changing sale results. For select examples, verified pieces have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And in top condition, some have crossed into six-figure territory. Not because they're flashy, but because they are legitimately rare, historically documented, and heavily studied. But here's where many owners make a costly mistake. They assume any 1969's penny is valuable. In reality, most 1969's cents are standard proof coins, and their value depends heavily on condition. A clean, well-preserved proof might sell anywhere from a few dollars to a few dozen dollars. A proof with deep scratches, fingerprints, or cleaning damage may struggle to attract interest at all. Cleaning is one of the fastest ways to destroy hidden financial potential. Collectors want originality. Hairline scratches from polishing, chemical dips, or even wiping the surface can permanently reduce value. Once altered, a coin rarely recovers its appeal, no matter how rare the date might be. This is where patience matters more than speed. Circulated 1969 pennies without the S-Mint mark are generally common and modestly valued. Circulated 1969 coins are unusual because proof coins weren't meant to circulate. The circulation alone doesn't make them valuable. Condition still rules everything. And here's another detail collectors quietly watch. There are minor varieties and strike characteristics that can affect interest, even outside the famous double die. Sharp strikes, cameo contrast on proofs, and untouched surfaces all play a role. Two coins that look identical to an untrained eye can have dramatically different demand once graded. This difference can completely change interest. Certified examples: coins authenticated and graded by major services consistently outperform raw coins. Certification removes doubt, especially for high-profile varieties like the 1969's double die, where authenticity is critical. Some of the most compelling stories in numismatics come from patient owners. People who set aside coins decades ago, never rushed to sell, and later discovered a form of quiet wealth discovery hiding in plain sight. Not overnight riches, but unexpected income uncovered through knowledge and timing. And timing matters. Market demand for classic Lincoln cents remains strong because collectors continue to enter the hobby. while truly rare varieties never increase in supply. Once a coin is damaged, lost, or mishandled, it's gone forever. So if you own 1969 pennies, especially ones with an S mint mark, take a careful look. Use magnification. Look for strong doubling, clean surfaces, and original finish. And if something looks unusual, resist the urge to clean or polish it. Knowledge protects value. Before you move on, I recommend watching another video on rare Lincoln penny varieties that still surface today. The more you understand what collectors quietly watch, the better your chances of recognizing hidden financial potential when it appears. Because in coin collecting, patience beats luck, and awareness often makes the difference between spending a penny and discovering what it was really worth.
Imagine holding in your hand a coin that almost no one believes exists. A small, seemingly ordinary Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1973. Yet it carries a secret, a flaw so rare, so perfectly concealed, that collectors whisper about it in hushed tones, as if revealing it aloud could summon others to claim it. This is not just a coin. It's a doorway into a story that intertwines history, human curiosity, and the allure of wealth that has haunted collectors for decades. Today, we are unraveling the enigma of the 1973 D mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin, a numismatic ghost that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in the right hands. To understand the gravity of this coin, you must first understand what it represents. The United States Mint of 1973 produced billions of coins, each one destined for pockets, jars, and cash registers across the country. Yet, hidden among those ordinary cents, a handful of Lincoln 1-cent coins emerged carrying a mint mark from Denver, a D that wasn't supposed to be there on certain planchets. This isn't a mistake you could spot with a casual glance. It's a whisper of history etched into copper, a deviation from the relentless precision of the mint, a moment when human error collided with mechanical perfection. And in that collision, value was created, immense value. But let's pause for a moment and consider, why do collectors obsess over such anomalies? Why does a tiny piece of metal, almost weightless, ignite desire and sometimes obsession? It's the promise of rarity, yes, but deeper than that. It's a connection to something larger than ourselves. Collecting is not just about accumulation. It is about preservation. The 1973 D mint mark Lincoln 1 cent is a tangible remnant of a moment in time, a silent witness to the cultural and economic heartbeat of America in the early 1970s. Holding it is like shaking hands with history itself. Now, imagine for a second that you stumble upon one of these coins. How would you even know it's genuine? The answer lies in subtleties that most would overlook. The precise tilt of the D mint mark, the way the copper patina has aged, the micro-abrasions that tell the tale of its journey through countless hands. Experts spend years learning to read these coins like open books, and yet, even for the trained eye, the thrill comes not from certainty but from discovery. One glance can ignite a spark, a what-if, that keeps collectors awake at night, scanning auctions, attending coin shows, and hunting through jars of seemingly worthless cents. It's easy to underestimate the power of a small coin. After all, it's only a penny. Yet this penny, in the right context, holds a power far greater than its face value. Consider that the market has seen examples of these coins reach astounding valuations. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes exceeding $700,000. For most, this seems preposterous. How can a penny, something you've probably stepped over on the sidewalk, suddenly transform into a life-altering asset? The answer lies in scarcity and story. A coin like the 1973 D mint mark Lincoln 1 cent is not just copper. It is a chapter of the American narrative frozen in metal. And the story collectors pay for is never just about the coin itself. It's about the potential it unlocks. Financial freedom, legacy, and the thrill of holding something the world does not fully appreciate. History reveals even more layers to this fascination. In the early 1970s, the United States faced inflationary pressures and the lingering shadows of economic uncertainty. Everyday Americans carried cents as tokens of their daily lives, buying groceries, tipping a waiter, feeding meters. Amid these ordinary transactions, some coins slipped through the machinery with imperfections, unnoticed by cashiers, unnoticed by pocket change. The 1973 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin is a remnant of that unnoticed history, a whisper from a simpler era preserved in copper. And now, decades later, it calls to collectors not only with promise of profit, but with nostalgia for a time when a single coin could still feel magical. Here's a thought that may surprise you. Even among coin enthusiasts, few understand the psychological magnetism of such rarities. It's not just scarcity that drives obsession. It's the idea of uncovering something hidden, something that others overlooked. Think of the first collector to realize the 1973 D mint mark Lincoln 1 cent existed. That moment was electric, a mix of disbelief, excitement, and a tinge of fear. Because once the secret is known, everyone wants in. Auctions become battlegrounds. Private sales are whispered about in exclusive circles. And the value? It skyrockets, fueled by desire and human emotion as much as by copper and mint marks. Collectors also recognize an intriguing nuance. Coins like these are a hedge against time itself. Unlike stocks or bonds, which can vanish with a market crash, or real estate that requires upkeep, a rare coin endures. It is a tangible, portable asset. And for those who study the market closely, the 1973 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin is more than an anomaly. It is a signal. Coins with mint mark errors have historically appreciated faster than the market average, particularly when their numbers are limited and their provenance well documented. In other words, this is a coin that doesn't just sit in a drawer. It grows in cultural and financial value every year it is preserved. And yet, for all its allure, the coin is notoriously elusive. Imagine sifting through stacks of change, hundreds, thousands of ordinary cents, knowing that a single misstep could mean missing the opportunity of a lifetime. Some collectors tell stories of jars untouched for decades, only to reveal a 1973 D mint mark Lincoln 1 cent hidden among the coins of daily life. Each discovery comes with a rush, a pulse-quickening reminder that fortune favors the observant and the patient. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this coin is its ability to bridge worlds, history, finance, and personal legacy. A collector might hold it not just for profit, but for storytelling, to pass it down to children or grandchildren as a family heirloom, to say, here is a piece of history, and with it, a lesson. Value is often hidden where you least expect it. That combination of material, worth, and narrative power is what makes coins like the 1973 D mint mark Lincoln 1 cent so magnetic, but let's not romanticize too much. The path to owning such a coin is fraught with challenges. Authentication is critical. Modern technology allows for high-resolution imaging, microscopic analysis, and even metallurgical testing to ensure a coin's legitimacy. Forgeries exist, and collectors have lost fortunes to inauthentic pieces. This is where expertise becomes a currency as valuable as the coin itself. Engaging with reputable dealers, attending graded coin shows, and cultivating a network of trusted experts can mean the difference between a life-changing acquisition and a costly mistake. The market itself is a living organism. Trends fluctuate as interest waxes and wanes, as new discoveries are announced, and as prominent collections appear at auction. But what remains constant is human emotion, the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of uncovering what others cannot, and the silent knowledge that the coin you hold is a rare whisper from a moment long past. In this sense, the 1973 D mint mark Lincoln 1 cent is more than copper and mint marks. It is a mirror, reflecting our desire for recognition, security, and the thrill of legacy. And here's a secret often overlooked by casual observers. Sometimes, the most extraordinary finds are right under your nose. Coin collections in attics, jars in basements, envelopes stuffed in drawers. These are the places where history hides. The 1973 D Lincoln 1 cent coin isn't just in museums or high-end auctions. It can be anywhere, waiting for someone with keen eyes and a patient heart to recognize it. The excitement of the discovery is part of the magic. That moment, when you realize the ordinary coin in your hand is extraordinary, is priceless. So what does the future hold for a coin like this? In an era of digital assets and fleeting trends, tangible rarity retains a power that is timeless. Coins like the 1973 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1 cent continue to attract seasoned collectors and new enthusiasts alike, each drawn by the possibility of uncovering a forgotten treasure. The market will evolve, values will shift, but the allure of holding a coin that is at once historical artifact and financial powerhouse will remain constant. For those willing to dive into the world of rare coin collecting, this is a call to attention. The 1973 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln. 1 cent is not just a coin. It is an invitation to explore history, to understand human error turned into fortune, and to connect with a legacy that transcends generations. Every scratch, every glint of copper, every perfectly placed mint mark tells a story that deserves to be preserved, treasured, and understood. And perhaps that is the ultimate lesson. True value is never obvious at first glance. It is hidden, sometimes in plain sight, waiting for the patient, the observant, the curious. The 1973 D Mint Mark Lincoln. 1 cent is more than a collectible. It is a reminder that history, wealth, and legacy often lie in the details, in the stories we uncover, and in the courage to pursue the extraordinary in the midst of the ordinary. So, the next time you reach for a coin, pause. Examine it. Could it be a key to history? A whisper from the past that carries the potential to change your future? For those who listen closely, who look carefully, the answer may be closer than they think. Could this humble Abraham Lincoln 1 cent coin from the year 1984, struck in Philadelphia without its identifying letter, really be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps even more? It sounds impossible, but history, especially in the world of American coinage, is filled with impossibilities that turned out to be true. The 1984 Lincoln 1 cent coin sits at an interesting intersection in U.S. minting history. By that time, America had shifted away from the heavier bronze composition of earlier decades, replacing it with copper-plated zinc, lighter, cheaper, and easier to mint. To the naked eye, it looked the same, but to numismatists, it marked the beginning of a new era, an era where minute variations and manufacturing quirks could turn common coins into legends. And that's exactly what happened in 1984. Somewhere, deep within the humming machinery of the Philadelphia Mint, a subtle but critical mistake occurred. A die used to imprint the design onto blank planchets was damaged. The result? A tiny doubling in the engraving, most visibly around Lincoln's ear. A doubled ear variety, as collectors call it today. To most people, it's invisible. But to the trained eye, it's unmistakable and priceless. But let's pause for a moment. Why does something as small as a doubled ear matter so much? Why would anyone pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a cent that, by all practical measures, buys nothing anymore? Because value in the coin world isn't measured by denomination, it's measured by rarity, history, and the emotion of discovery. Collectors understand this at a deep, almost instinctive level. When you hold a rare coin in your hand, you're not just touching metal. You're touching a moment that escaped the ordinary flow of production, a sliver of chance that survived decades without being melted, lost, or forgotten. That's what drives people to spend lifetimes chasing these anomalies, the chance to hold a piece of time that shouldn't exist, but does. The 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent coin is one of those anomalies. Most coins from Philadelphia traditionally carried no mint mark, true, but not all of them carry this distinctive doubling. Only a small fraction of the year's production left the mint this way, and fewer still survived in pristine condition. Those that did have become the holy grail for serious collectors. And it's not just the doubling that draws fascination, it's the mystery. The Philadelphia Mint never officially confirmed the exact number of these era coins released. Estimates vary wildly, fueling speculation and, inevitably, value. Because in numismatics, mystery equals demand. Now, here's where things get fascinating. In 2023, a certified 1984, no mint mark Lincoln cent with the doubled ear error was graded by a leading authority at Mint State 67 Red, a condition so flawless it looks as though it just rolled off the die. Yesterday, that coin fetched nearly $722,000 at auction. Think about that for a moment. A single-cent coin, something that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up from the ground, selling for more than the average American home. What drives such a price? It's not just rarity, it's perfection. High-grade examples are exceedingly scarce. Most 1984 cents suffered scratches, contact marks, or dulling from circulation. But to find one untouched, gleaming with its original copper luster, struck sharply with the doubling clearly visible, it's like catching lightning in a bottle. But the 1984 cents story is bigger than money. It's a story of perspective, because every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story is about how we, as humans, overlook the extraordinary in our everyday lives. We handle change every single day. We see the familiar face of Lincoln so often that it fades into the background. Yet here lies the paradox. Within that sameness, there are treasures, hidden not by design, but by accident. Isn't that a bit like life itself? How many of us overlook opportunities simply because they don't look valuable at first glance? Let's take a step back into history. The concept of mint marks dates back to the earliest days of American coinage. Each letter, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, P for Philadelphia, served as a fingerprint, a sign of where a coin was born. For collectors, these small letters often mean the difference between a $1 coin and a $100,000 rarity. But Philadelphia, for much of its history, used no mark at all. The nation's first mint didn't need to announce its identity, it was the identity, and that's where the irony lies. The absence of a mark, in this case, became a mark of fame. To understand why collectors pay so much attention to error coins, we have to explore the psychology behind collecting itself. For many, coin collecting begins as a hobby, a curiosity sparked by an old jar of coins, a childhood fascination, or perhaps an inheritance from a relative who spent Sunday afternoons at estate sales. But as collectors mature, the pursuit evolves. It becomes less about the coins themselves and more about what they represent: control over time, mastery over chaos, and the building of legacy. A coin is finite. It can be cataloged, preserved, and passed down. It doesn't depreciate with fashion or fad. It endures. And when you find a coin like the 1984 double-ear cent, you're not just finding a coin, you're uncovering a mistake that defied destruction. You're finding a survivor. Now, some skeptics might say, how can a small doubling make such a difference? Isn't it just hype? Fair question. But consider this. In the world of art, a single brushstroke or pigment variation can mean the difference between a priceless masterpiece and a reproduction. In numismatics, the die is the artist's hand, and an error, when preserved, becomes the signature of its humanity. That's why collectors don't just buy coins, they buy stories. And few stories capture that human element quite like the 1984 no mint mark Lincoln cent. Midway through this journey, it's worth asking, how many of these coins are still out there, undiscovered, sitting quietly in drawers, jars, and attic boxes? Statistically speaking, perhaps a few hundred in collectible condition remain, maybe fewer. Yet every year, new discoveries surface. Someone cleaning out an old safe deposit box, a young collector learning from a grandparent, a chance encounter at a flea market. Each discovery rekindles the magic, the sense that, even in a world driven by digital currencies and virtual investments, tangible history still has the power to astonish us. There's also a financial undercurrent to this fascination. Rare coins, especially U.S. varieties with strong historical narratives, have outperformed traditional markets at surprising rates. During times of inflation or economic uncertainty, tangible assets like gold, silver, and rare coins become safe harbors for wealth. But unlike bullion, which trades on weight, rare coins trade on emotion and uniqueness. You can melt gold and get the same metal anywhere. But try finding another flawless 1984 double-ear cent, and you'll realize just how singular it is. That scarcity drives passion. Passion drives bidding wars, and bidding wars drive value beyond logic. Collectors often describe the thrill of discovery in almost spiritual terms. The rush of spotting an anomaly, the anticipation of verification, the reverence of holding something few others have ever touched. It borders on sacred. That's why coin shows, auctions, and collector clubs are not just markets, they're pilgrimages. Each person is chasing not just profit, but meaning. And perhaps that's the greatest legacy of coins, like the 1984 no-mint-mark Lincoln cent. They remind us that history isn't confined to museums or textbooks. It lives in our hands, hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to notice. If you ever find yourself examining your change tonight, remember this story. The gleam of a small copper coin might seem trivial, but history has a habit of hiding miracles inside the mundane, tilted under a lamp. Look closely at Lincoln's profile. Study the ear. The doubling is subtle but distinct, a faint echo of craftsmanship, a silent whisper from the die that struck it. And if you ever spot one even slightly, don't dismiss it. Because the next $1 million find might not come from Wall Street, but from your own kitchen table. The coin market today continues to evolve. Modern investors are beginning to understand what numismatists have known for generations. That wealth isn't just about accumulation, it's about preservation and story. Each rare coin serves as both artifact and asset, capable of holding its value through wars, recessions, and revolutions. And among them, coins like the 1984 doubled ear cent rise above the rest, not merely as errors, but as reminders that imperfection itself can become perfection when preserved by time. So what can this teach us? That sometimes, mistakes are the most valuable things we create. That attention to detail, the patience to look twice, can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. And that history has a sense of humor. It hides its treasures where only the curious dare to look. The next time someone tells you there's no fortune left to be found in coins, tell them about the man or woman who found a single cent, without a mint mark, bearing a faint doubled ear, and turned it into a legacy worth more than gold. Because in the world of coin collecting, fortune doesn't just favor the bold, it favors the observant. Perhaps even now, one of those elusive 1984 Philadelphia-struck Lincoln cents is waiting, resting in an old cigar box, tucked away in a forgotten drawer. And maybe it's not just waiting to be found, but waiting for someone worthy enough to recognize it. That someone could be you. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a 6-figure treasure isn't luck. It's knowledge. It's patience. It's the courage to look a little closer, and in that small act of attention, wealth and legacy are born. Most people overlook the Lincoln cent. It's the coin that jingles unnoticed in our change jars, tossed aside in glove compartments, forgotten in drawers. But to a trained eye, to someone who sees history in the shimmer of copper, each cent tells a deeper story. And the 1993 D? Its story begins in the shadow of a changing era. The early 1990s were a transitional time for American coinage. The Denver Mint, operating with precision and volume, was producing billions of coins a year. The Lincoln 1-cent coin of that year wasn't meant to be special. It wasn't commemorative or limited edition. It was ordinary, at least that's what everyone believed, but in numismatics, ordinary is often just the mask that hides the miraculous. So what makes a 1993 D Lincoln cent worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? It's not just rarity, though that's part of it. It's not just condition, though that can multiply a coin's value exponentially. It's the combination of error, perfection, and mystery. A trifecta that sends shivers down the spine of any serious collector. Some of these coins, discovered in uncirculated rolls, bear subtle yet extraordinary traits. Minute differences in die alignment, striking pressure, or metal composition, imperceptible. To most, can mark the difference between a 1-cent curiosity and a 6-figure treasure. A few specimens have surfaced that defy normal minting expectations. Coins so sharply struck, so pristine in their original luster, that even the grading giants like PCGS and NGC have taken special notice. And then there are the error variants, coins struck with doubled dies, off-center impressions, or die breaks that form ghostly cracks across Lincoln's iconic profile. Each error tells a story of mechanical imperfection during a time when precision was everything. Each mistake, accidental, fleeting, and unrepeatable, became a mark of uniqueness. That uniqueness is what drives obsession. Collectors often talk about the hunt. It's not merely about finding coins, it's about discovering meaning in metal. When a collector finds a misstruck, Lincoln Cent in near-perfect condition, sealed in the plastic of a high-grade holder, it's more than an investment. It's proof that they've uncovered a hidden chapter in the story of American minting. The emotional charge is indescribable. The hands shake. The heart races. You realize you're holding something the mint never intended to exist and something so few others will ever see. That's what happened. When word spread of a 1993 D Lincoln 1-cent coin selling for over $700,000 at private auction, the coin's immaculate strike, its mint luster preserved like time suspended, made even seasoned experts take a step back. Was it an anomaly, a fluke of the minting process? Or had the Denver Mint accidentally created one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents in existence? Before we answer that, let's pause for a moment. Have you ever thought about how many coins you've held in your lifetime? Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. All the coins that pass through your hands unexamined. How many of those could have been something extraordinary? That's the haunting question that keeps collectors awake at night. The Lincoln Cent series, introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, has witnessed the shifting story of America itself. From the early wheat reverse designs to the later memorial motifs, the coin evolved alongside our nation's identity. By 1993, the cent was being minted from a copper-plated zinc composition, a cost-saving change made in 1982. To most, that detail seemed trivial. But to collectors, it marked the beginning of subtle complexities. Variations in weight, in tone, in surface reaction to air, and every year since, the U.S. Mint has struggled to maintain uniformity across billions of strikes. That's where opportunity hides, coins that deviate, just slightly, from the norm. Become legends. The 1993 D Lincoln 1-cent, especially in mint state conditions of MS 68 or higher, represents near impossibility. Billions were struck. Few survived without a single blemish. The copper plating scratches easily, reacts with moisture, and dulls within years of circulation. So when a coin emerges after 3 decades looking as fresh as the day it left the Denver presses, collectors take notice. When it also bears a near-flawless strike and flawless luster, that's when markets ignite. In one private transaction, a top-graded 1993 D Lincoln cent fetched $715,000, a staggering figure that made headlines across numismatic circles. Some dismissed it as collector mania. Others saw it for what it truly was, the manifestation of scarcity meeting passion. Because rarity alone doesn't drive value, emotion does. To understand why, look at the psychology of collecting. For many, coin collecting isn't about hoarding metal, it's about connecting with legacy. Each coin represents a fragment of history, a tangible artifact that outlives generations. The Lincoln cent especially connects deeply to the American identity, humble, enduring, resilient. When collectors chase a 1993 D variant worth 6 figures, they aren't just chasing profit. They're chasing immortality through ownership. They want to hold something that can't be replicated, that transcends its 1-cent face value to become a symbol of mastery, of discovery, of beating the odds. That's the allure of the 1993 D, but let's go deeper still. Many of these extraordinary specimens come from sealed mint sets that were never opened, sometimes tucked away in attics or safe deposit boxes for decades. Others were discovered by sharp-eyed enthusiasts using magnification and patience, an art in itself. The technology of modern coin grading has also changed the game. High-resolution imaging, spectral lighting, and digital scanning now allow experts to identify micro-anomalies invisible to the naked eye. That means even coins dismissed years ago can reveal secrets today. So yes, somewhere, perhaps in a small coin jar in someone's kitchen or in a forgotten roll of 1993 Denver minted cents, there might still be one of these hidden gems waiting to be recognized for what it truly is. A masterpiece of accidental creation. Let's play with that thought for a moment. Imagine opening an old roll of 1-cent coins. Dust settles as you unseal it. You spread them across your palm, brown, dull, unremarkable. But then, one coin catches the light differently. Its surface gleams a little brighter, sharper. You flip it over, and something about the alignment, the crispness of the strike, feels different. You look closer. The D mint mark seems perfectly centered, the fields mirror smooth, and you realize you could be holding a six-figure artifact of American minting history. That's not fantasy. It's the reality that has made everyday Americans into accidental millionaires. Still, the 1993 D phenomenon carries an air of mystery. Numismatic scholars debate whether these top-tier coins resulted from a limited early die, set, freshly polished and perfectly aligned, or if they were struck under slightly altered conditions before. Quality control changes took effect. Either way, the Denver Mint never officially acknowledged the difference. And that silence only adds to the intrigue. For collectors, unanswered questions are the oxygen of excitement. Every time a high-grade 1993 D cent surfaces, whispers echo through forums, auction houses, and private networks. Where did it come from? Are there more out there? Could this be the next million-dollar cent? But here's what separates the dreamers from the true numismatists: research, patience, and passion. The serious collector doesn't chase hype, they chase knowledge. They study die varieties, strike patterns, and metallurgical shifts. They learn the rhythm of the mint's machinery, the anomalies of each year's production run, because in that understanding lies the power to identify opportunity before the world catches on. And in today's market, where tangible assets are once again outperforming paper speculation, rare coins, especially modern errors and ultra-high-grade examples, have become the quiet investment frontier. Unlike stocks, they don't vanish in market crashes. Unlike crypto, they're not abstract. Each coin has weight, texture, and permanence. The 1993 D cent stands as proof that even the smallest denomination can command immense financial and historical respect. So the next time you see a Lincoln 1-cent coin from the Denver Mint, look at it differently. Turn it under the light. Examine the D mint mark. Feel the surface. Because the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $715,000 may be measured in microns. But its true value lies in the eyes that can see what others overlook. This is the magic of numismatics. It's not just about collecting, it's about awakening your sense of wonder, sharpening your observation, and reconnecting with the hidden stories minted into America's everyday life. Some people see coins as currency. Others see them as art. But the wise collector sees them as opportunity sealed in history. And perhaps, just perhaps, the next 1993 D Lincoln 1-cent treasure isn't locked away in a museum vault. Maybe it's waiting, silently, in your own change jar, hiding in plain sight, ready to turn a moment of curiosity into a lifetime of legacy. Because in the world of rare coins, fortunes aren't found by chance. They're found by those who pay attention. This is the story of one such coin, a humble Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from 1994, struck without a mint mark, that has stirred collectors, dealers, and investors alike. A coin whose existence challenges what we think we know about rarity, chance, and the secrets buried within American coinage. Most people would glance at a 1994 Lincoln cent and move on. It's one of billions. But for those who know how to look closer, who understand the hidden world of minting anomalies and numismatic history, that same coin can whisper a very different story. In 1994, the United States Mint was operating at full force. Over 6 billion Lincoln 1-cent coins were struck that year. The Philadelphia Mint, as was tradition, produced coins without a mint mark. To the untrained eye, that's just how they're supposed to look. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just a clean, unmarked field below Lincoln's shoulder. But here's the paradox. The no mint mark from 1994 isn't automatically valuable. After all, Philadelphia produced the bulk of them. What separates the ordinary from the extraordinary is what shouldn't exist at all. Somewhere among those billions, a few coins emerged with physical characteristics that defied the mint's machinery. Errors, variations, or die anomalies that transformed everyday cents into million-dollar marvels. Picture this. A collector in Ohio opens an old jar in his father's workshop, the kind filled with bolts, screws, and forgotten change. At the bottom, glinting faintly under a film of dust, lies a 1994 Lincoln cent. It feels heavier somehow, the color deeper, the rim slightly off-center. To anyone else, it's pocket change. But to a numismatist with decades of instinct, it's a heartbeat-quickening moment, the faint smell of opportunity. When that same coin was examined under magnification, it revealed something astonishing: doubled inscriptions. A subtle but unmistakable doubling in the word Liberty and in the date 1994. Even more puzzling, the coin bore the striking characteristics of a San Francisco proof: razor-sharp details and a mirror-like finish. Yet no mint mark at all. How could that be? Proof coins, after all, were never intended for circulation. They were meticulously crafted for collectors, struck multiple times with polished dies. A proof-like coin with no mint mark from 1994 shouldn't exist outside the U.S. Mint's tightly controlled walls. Yet it did. That discovery sent ripples through the numismatic world. Specialists debated, was it a rogue proof plancher struck in Philadelphia? A misdirected die intended for a San Francisco proof issue? Or perhaps a quietly unrecorded experimental strike? Whatever the cause, the coin was real, authenticated, graded, and eventually sold at auction for a staggering sum, reportedly reaching a market value north of $711,000. 1 cent. Worth more than a luxury home. The allure of such a find isn't just in the money. It's in the mystery. The idea that history hides in our hands. That American coinage still holds secrets not even the Mint's archives can fully explain. Every collector knows this truth. Rarity isn't always about age. Sometimes it's about error, about what shouldn't have happened yet did. The Lincoln 1 cent series is particularly rich with these anomalies. Over the decades, we've seen doubled dies, off-center strikes, wrong plancher errors, and even the occasional proof struck with business dies. These aren't mistakes so much as miracles of metalwork, accidents of history frozen in copper-plated zinc. The 1994 no mint mark cent captures that essence. To understand its magnitude, one must first understand the delicate balance of the minting process. Each die is engraved, hardened, and paired with a corresponding blank plancher. If a proof die somehow found its way onto a Philadelphia press, or if an unfinished proof plancher was mistakenly fed into a regular striking machine, the result would be a hybrid coin, proof-like surfaces. Philadelphia designation, no mint mark. And in a market where collectors chase uniqueness above all, that kind of hybrid isn't a defect, it's a phenomenon. But let's pause for a moment. You might be thinking, how could something so valuable go unnoticed for decades? The truth is, it happens more often than we realize. Millions of Americans have jars, drawers, or coffee cans filled with coins spanning decades, family collections that sit untouched, silently aging. Many contain overlooked treasures. The modern coin market has evolved beyond silver and gold. Today, error coins and die varieties are the quiet titans of the industry, fetching 6- and 7-figure prices at major auctions. Collectors have become treasure hunters armed with loupes and LED lamps, scrutinizing coins for doubling, plating flaws, or off-metal anomalies. What was once a casual hobby has transformed into a sophisticated form of asset discovery, and with social media and digital marketplaces, news travels fast. One viral post about a coin like the 1994 no mint mark cent can ignite a frenzy, not just of collectors, but of everyday people suddenly examining their change with new eyes. Still, amidst the excitement, a deeper story unfolds. Because coins like these don't just hold monetary value, they hold legacy. Each coin carries the fingerprints of an era, political shifts, economic tides, even the subtle decisions of mint engravers who shaped the nation's visual language. The 1994 cent, bearing the enduring image of Abraham Lincoln, connects back to 1909 when Victor David Brenner first immortalized the 16th president in miniature relief. Every restrike, every die modification, every compositional change tells us something about who we were and who we are. By the 1990s, copper had largely been replaced with zinc, symbolizing a nation striving for efficiency over permanence. Yet, in that very efficiency, beauty and error found new ways to emerge. It's poetic, isn't it? The smallest denomination in American currency, the coin most people ignore, becoming a vessel of immense value. It's almost symbolic of the American story itself. That greatness can emerge from the humblest beginnings, that something as small as a cent can represent the weight of a legacy. The mystery of the 1994 no-mint mark cent teaches an enduring lesson about attention and timing. Every major collector who ever made history, from Eliasberg to Norweb, shared one trait. They looked closer. They didn't just see coins. They saw possibilities. Now a moment of reflection. Somewhere in someone's coin jar right now, there may be another 1994 cent that defies expectation, another anomaly yet to be discovered. Perhaps yours. Perhaps someone's father's coin stash waiting to reveal its secret. And while not every coin will be worth $711,000, the search itself has become its own form of wealth. The act of collecting, of learning the stories behind the minting process, of holding pieces of American history in your palm, gives something no stock or digital asset can replicate. Tangible legacy. You see, coins don't just appreciate in value. They appreciate you. They remember. There's also a subtle shift happening in today's market. As technology advances and physical currency fades, coins are evolving from tools of trade into artifacts of identity. The demand for rare and high-grade pieces has surged, particularly among a new wave of investors who see numismatics as a hedge against uncertainty. Auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers have reported record-breaking sales year after year, with era coins leading surprising upsets. The mystique of discovery fuels these prices, and the fear of missing the next great find keeps collectors endlessly searching. The 1994 no-mint mark cent sits at the crossroads of that movement, a modern-era coin with ancient intrigue. Ask yourself, how many times have you spent a coin without ever looking at it? How many fortunes have passed through fingertips unrecognized? It's not a rhetorical question. It's a reminder that opportunity often hides where the eye refuses to linger. Collectors understand this better than anyone. They know that the line between ordinary and extraordinary is often just a faint doubling of a letter, a misaligned die, or a missing mint mark. That's why they keep searching. Because every coin has a story, and every story has the potential to rewrite destiny. By the end of this video, some of you will head straight to your coin jars. Others will open old albums or call a relative who used to collect pennies. And maybe, just maybe, one of you will find the next numismatic miracle, the next coin that makes the world pause and ask, how did this survive? But even if you don't, you'll have done something remarkable. You'll have looked closer. You'll have seen value where most see none. And that mindset, is the very foundation of legacy. Because wealth, in its truest form, isn't about accumulation. It's about preservation. It's about holding in your hands a story that endures long after you're gone. So the next time you come across a 1994 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, pause, examine it, study its details. Let curiosity guide you, because within that tiny disc of metal might lie a story worth more than money. A story of craftsmanship, chance, and the timeless pursuit of discovery. This isn't a myth. It's the story of one of the most astonishing modern numismatic discoveries in recent memory, the 1997 Denver Mint Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin. A humble piece of metal that, under the right conditions, could command a price tag of $706,000. Imagine this. You're at your kitchen counter, rolling up spare change, sorting through a pile of dull brown cents. One coin catches your eye. It looks ordinary, maybe a little brighter than the rest, maybe just worn differently. You almost toss it into the pile, but something, instinct, curiosity, fate, stops you. You turn it over and notice something. Unusual, and that tiny detail, that glint of difference, could separate an average 1-cent coin from a collector's dream worth more than a mansion. The 1997 D. Abraham Lincoln. 1-cent coin is one of those pieces that remind us of a timeless truth in collecting. Wealth often hides in plain sight. Minted in Denver, Colorado, the city known for its precision in coin production, most of these copper-plated zinc cents entered circulation without fanfare. Billions were struck. To the untrained eye, they all look identical. But among those billions, a few were different. A few bore the hallmarks of error, rarity, or exceptional preservation that elevate them from pocket change to treasure. But how can something as common as a 1997 cent become so valuable? The answer lies in the delicate marriage between history, human error, and condition. Let's start with history. By 1997, the Lincoln 1-cent coin had already been in production for nearly 9 decades. First introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin's portrait of Lincoln was more than art. It was a statement of national character, humility, and perseverance through hardship. But by the late 20th century, these coins had changed dramatically. The original bronze alloy had long been replaced with a copper-plated zinc composition, cheaper, lighter, and more prone to corrosion. Minting technology had advanced, yet perfection was still elusive. And that's where opportunities for collectors are born, in the imperfections of mass production. The 1997 D. Mint mark coin is notable because some rare examples were struck with minute die errors, double dies, off-center strikes, and in rare cases, mismatched planchets intended for other denominations. A few even displayed a subtle but dramatic doubling on Lincoln's eye, lettering, or the date itself. A visual quirk that transforms an everyday coin into a collectible masterpiece. To the naked eye, it might look like a slight blur or an unusual shine under light. But to a trained numismatist, that blur could mean a 6-figure discovery. Now let's pause for a moment. Think about the psychology of coin collecting. Why do some people devote decades, even lifetimes, to chasing these elusive variations? Because every coin tells a story. It's not just metal. It's a fragment of history, minted by human hands, touched by time, and carried through countless lives. When you hold one of these rare 1997 D Lincoln cents, you're holding a snapshot of American industry, art, and chance. A symbol of how the smallest details can hold the greatest meaning. And that's the real magic. The idea that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon a forgotten fortune in their own pocket change. But how did one of these coins reach a market value of $706,000? It wasn't luck. It was rarity, demand, and timing. One particularly pristine specimen, authenticated by professional grading services such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, achieved a near-perfect mint state 69. That level of preservation is almost unheard of for a circulating 1-cent coin from the late 1990s. The sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the flawless luster, the crisp definition of the D mint mark, it all contributed to its astronomical valuation. When that coin appeared in the numismatic auction circuit, seasoned collectors immediately recognized its uniqueness. For some, it represented a missing piece in a lifetime collection. For others, it was an investment, a tangible asset immune to the fluctuations of digital markets and speculative trends. And when the final bid closed at over $700,000, it sent shockwaves through the collecting community. Here's something most people overlook. The coin market isn't driven only by metal content or mintage numbers. It's powered by emotion and narrative. Collectors are storytellers at heart. They're drawn to pieces that represent a mystery, a mistake, or a moment in time. That's why coins like the 1997 D Lincoln cent fascinate the American collector's psyche. It's not just about money. It's about legacy. The idea of owning something that outlives us, something that connects generations. Every time a new record-setting sale occurs, it reignites a national curiosity. People dig through old jars, bank rolls, and attic boxes, wondering if the next hidden gem might be theirs. But beware, with fame comes imitation. The market has seen its share of counterfeits, artificially toned coins, altered mint marks, and even restruck counterfeits designed to fool inexperienced buyers. That's why authentication is everything. True collectors know the importance of certification, not just as proof of authenticity, but as a shield of confidence. A coin sealed in a transparent holder by PCGS or NGC carries the weight of expert examination. It tells potential buyers, this coin is real. Its story is verified. And in a world where trust is currency, that seal can mean the difference between a collectible curiosity and a life-changing investment. Let's zoom out for a moment. Coin collecting isn't just a hobby anymore. It's a sophisticated investment strategy. In recent years, tangible assets like rare coins have surged in appeal among Americans seeking to diversify their portfolios and preserve wealth against inflation. While the stock market fluctuates daily and cryptocurrencies swing with unpredictable volatility, rare coins have a steady allure. They're finite, physical, and historically anchored. Each coin is a microeconomy of scarcity and sentiment, and when a coin like the 1997 D Lincoln cent makes headlines, it fuels that fire, proving once again that even modern-era coins, often dismissed as too new or too common, can hold astonishing potential. Here's a question to ponder. How many 1997 D cents have you personally handled in your lifetime? 10, 50, 1,000? Statistically, you've almost certainly touched one. Maybe more. Now imagine that one of those could have been the coin, the $706,000 treasure. The idea alone is enough to make anyone take a second look at their change. That's the quiet thrill of the numismatic world, the perpetual possibility that lightning could strike in the most ordinary moment. Of course, not every coin will yield a fortune, but every coin has the potential to teach us something about value, not just monetary, but historical and human. The 1997 D Abraham Lincoln. 1 cent coin is more than a fluke of the minting process. It's a reminder that the extraordinary often masquerades as the ordinary. That's what draws seasoned collectors and new enthusiasts alike to the hunt. Not greed, but curiosity, because collecting isn't about possession. It's about connection. Every time a collector uncovers a rare specimen, they're not just finding metal. They're rediscovering a fragment of America's story. So the next time you find yourself holding a worn, copper-plated cent, take a moment. Look closer. Check the mint mark, that tiny D just beneath the date. Study the details under light. Notice any doubling on the lettering, any unusual thickness, any inconsistency. That's where secrets hide, not in the obvious, but in the overlooked. And who knows? Perhaps in your palm lies a coin that once rolled off the Denver, mint's press with a microscopic imperfection that now makes it priceless. Collectors often say the true reward isn't the coin itself. It's the story that comes with it, the sleepless nights of research, the thrill of discovery, the pride of preserving a piece of national heritage for future generations. The 1997 D Lincoln 1 cent story embodies that spirit perfectly. It teaches us patience, attention, and reverence for the past. It reminds us that greatness isn't always loud or golden. Sometimes it's copper-colored, quietly waiting in your spare change. As the coin market continues to evolve, and as technology allows for more precise authentication and digital trading, one truth remains. The rarest treasures often emerge from the simplest beginnings. Somewhere in America, perhaps in a forgotten drawer or an unsearched bankroll, another 1997 D Lincoln 1 cent coin may still be waiting, a tiny capsule of value and mystery, ready to rewrite someone's destiny. So the next time you pass a handful of coins across a counter, pause for a heartbeat. Feel their weight. Listen to the faint clink as they fall, because in that sound lies possibility. The sound of history whispering that fortune favors the observant. Somewhere out there, an ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret. And maybe, just maybe, it's in your hand right now.